Hi everyone, welcome to Let's Do Bonsai. Looks like Harry's in charge today, and the job that we're going to be doing today is repotting the willow trees. The table is looking a bit empty and clean, so I think it's time to get the potting station and get it into position and make a little bit of mess. So today we're going to work on these willows. Some of them have done really well, and some of them, like this one, not done too good and died all the way back. But if we look into the lower part of the pot, we can see it started growing back out right low down. So we can cut that all the way back where it's died back and have a nice little setup, and maybe even get that into a small bonsai pot. These leftover cuttings were all put together and they seem to have grown quite well. But are showing signs of dying back at the ends. And we have another twisted willow that was doing great, really well, and that seems to have decided to just die off and die back. Willows do that. And then we have a larger willow cutting there that's really taken off, that we're going to repot and just see if we can get that trimmed back a little bit maybe, and get that on its road to growing on a little bit more. So Harry's abandoned us for running around with his pushchair, so he's nice and happy. So I think the first thing to do is going to be get the first willow and try and get it out of the pot without creating too much damage to it. And just crush the soil a little bit and see if we can't get that out. Oh, slop straight out. It is in some of this not so nice soil, so we'll just let that fall away, and hopefully we won't have too much in the roots. We do have lots of lovely roots in there. There's a weed there which has got even nicer roots, but we'll do away with that, and we'll just grab our root rake and just comb the roots out. And that's actually put down some really nice roots for us to work with. It was taken off of a tree that Kay used to climb when she was a small girl, and yeah, it's a little bit of history within this tree. You want to come and join us, do you? Come on then. So Harry's decided to join us now that there's something happening. True to form. Nice cup of tea. Yep. And we'll just rake out the roots, Harry. We're almost in a position where we can go and clean these ones out. So that's actually come out nice. That we could have been a lot worse off with the soil that it was in, but that looks really well. We'll go and clean out the roots as best as we can, and I think we've got off lightly with the soil that it was put in. So we'll clean that bit up. And you're getting off? Okay then, see you in a bit. And we'll get these roots cleaned up so that we can get it repotted into some better soil so it can continue on its journey. So that's willow number 1 taken out of its pot. We've just put it into some water for now, which will be good because willows like to be sat in wet soil and water, so it'll pick up plenty from that. Then we've got this one that we've got quite a bit of dieback on this, so we'll just take the dieback away to just where it's dieback, or leaving a little bit of the dieback there, and then we'll pull it out and see exactly what we've got. So there's been other things growing in this soil that have grown and died off, so I'm wondering whether there might be something in this soil that things haven't been quite happy with. But we do have some good growth right down here at the bottom, so if we just try and work this out of the pot. Oh, there we go. So we've got a lot of this horrible soil at the bottom. That's probably why things haven't been too happy, as the roots have gone down. But we do have some nicer soil at the top, and there's a number of good roots, but I think that they're probably down to some little grass particles and things that are in there. So let's take our rake and just pull this apart and just see what we've got going for us in all of this. It's a little bit heavy just to pick it up by its little trunk, so we'll work it out without trying to damage what we have. Lots of roots up there at the surface, but there's lots of this bad soil and not a lot of roots in this bad soil. So if we can get it out of that soil, this seems a lot wetter. It's retained a lot more moisture, which isn't really a problem with the willow, fortunately, but it would be a problem with a lot of other trees. So it's good that we're getting rid of, taking steps to get rid of this bad soil. So there is a number of roots coming through that look to be through from the willow, so we'll just continue to work the soil away from the roots, trying not to damage them too much. The clay particles have gone quite soggy, and the new growth is just at the top of the soil level. So I'm trying to be that little bit careful, extra careful, to not damage that growth. So I'm trying not to pinch it as it leaves the branch, as it leaves the trunk. But there is this, the darker soil seems to be doing a better job than the bad soil, but it's a little bit more difficult to get away from the roots. So we're almost at a stage where I can take it and rinse it all off, which will get rid of all that horrible soil, and then we can look to see what we've got to work with and just put it into some water for now. But that's the growth that we've got coming out of the bottom, which hopefully lends itself for what we're trying to do with it. So that's number 2 completed and sat in water, so that's happy for now. Our third one has done really well. It's put out some branches all over the place. It's really gone long. There's ever such a little bit of dieback at the top, so this one has done really well. So we'll get this one out of its pot, and we'll definitely look to get this back into some really nice bonsai soil. So we'll just get it out of its pot. There is a bit of the not so nice soil in there once again, so we'll just rake out the lighter coloured soil and see where that lands us. It's a bit drier, this one, so that's good. It means all the particles are going to come away a lot easier. They have retained their integrity to a degree, but obviously when they're wet and they get squashed together, they become very mushy and not so nice. But this part of the soil, not too bad at all. Just work it so that it all comes away. All the fine feeder roots are ripping off, and they're nice fine feeder roots. So this soil, although it's part of that same batch, has actually done really, really well. It's not been too wet. It will have retained the moisture a little bit inside the particles, and this is what we would normally expect from our soil, that we can scrape it away and it stays in its particles. Now this was a lot finer, but this was the sifted out material that I just used as a soil to put the cuttings in. That was the general idea of that, and for this one it actually worked, so I'm really happy with that. That's really good. We'll just rake out the topsoil in an outward motion. So I obviously topped off with some fibre garden soil. Must have been from the Grow It bag that we had, which was some fine fir bark sort of soil. You can see all the tiny fir bark that's in there, so that must have been what we topped it off with out of that bag of Grow It soil that we had. But this isn't too wet at all, and being dry, the willow's done really well, bearing in mind they normally like a nice damp environment for the roots. They've actually done great, given that they've not had excessive watering. They've all been in the same place, round the back, round the side there, and all received the same water, same rain. So it's just strange how this one has not maintained it as much as the others. But we'll get the roots washed out and get it sat in some water so that we can quickly get it back into some soil. So that's now 3 done, and number 4 coming in. This has got some long leggy growth on this. The intention is to send some of these away, but I think the next one, which has got the cuttings in, will be the ones that I send away. They're slightly small, they're slightly smaller, shorter internodes, bit more growth coming out lower down, so trying to get these leggy branches into the post, into the packaging, would be a little bit of a nightmare. And I don't want to send somebody a straggly little thing like this with a little bit of growth coming out. This one needs to do some recovery work. It's got some lovely roots, but I just wouldn't want to send that to somebody for them to get it and go, cheers, that's, you know, it's going to die. But it stands more of a chance if we keep it here, pot it up and move it on. So we'll get this one out of its soil, get it rooted, same as the other 3, and then that'll leave us with the other cuttings that were taken from the tree. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in there. 3 of them I can see have died back, so we have 3 that we can package up and send on. And they're going to go to my good friend Jared out there at Jarhead Bonsai. We were talking through some messaging the other day, and he said he liked them, and I'm like, well, I've got these to repot and I've got too many really, so if you want one, you can, I'll send one across. So the cuttings I'll be sending across to Jared, and you'll be able to see the progress of those cuttings out there at Jarhead Bonsai. So let's take this out of its pot, and again we've got the not so nice soil at the bottom and the normal fibrous soil at the top. We've got lots of roots going on everywhere, but I think these are from things that were growing in the pot once again. And I think if we just give it the same treatment, take this lower soil out, it's a bit drier than the first couple that we did, so it's like the last one, nice and dry, and it's all just breaking away from the soil. So we can work that away, give it a bit of a squeeze so it all drops out of the roots, just agitate it so it all drops away. It's doing really nicely, lots of roots in there. We'll just work away up through the root system, shaking all this dry soil out, and it's coming out nice. Get up towards the darker soil, just keep doing the same thing, working away, take it away. We'll just break away the top soil, that's coming. So that's doing a good job, and we'll just shake that off, work it all the way. The roots do come down and then go back up, it would appear, so we'll just work that out as best we can before we get to a stage of being able to wash out the roots. But whilst ever the soil is dry enough to just shake it off, that's kind of a bonus for us. We'll accept that and pull that away. So shake it off, agitate it within the system to shake out as much as we can. There's all these roots down the bottom. I think we'll just cut these bottom lumps away. Get away as much of that as we can, and we're just about in position to be able to go and wash these out. So a little bit more work, just give it a little bit of a rake just to pull the crossing roots down, and so we've got our radial roots to work with. There's a lot of the crossing roots there, but I think that's pretty much in a state to be able to go and wash them out. All this soil at the top's tightly knitted in, and it comes out a lot nicer as we wash it through. So I'll go and do that now, and we'll get it in some water, and then we can work on Jared's cuttings. So that's the 4 main trees that are growing taken out. Now it's time to pull out the shorter seedlings that we're putting together. That one's died off, that one's died off, that one died off. So 3 gone, 3 left. So let's take these out of the pot, and we'll see if we can work them free from themselves within the roots. Oh, I seem to have misplaced my rake. So we're back, we've got the root rakes, one of them in the kitchen, the other one in the bin with the soil that was just thrown away. So minor catastrophe averted there. So let's just work away these roots, getting rid of the soil. Am I doing a good job, Harry? Yeah, thank you. I think you better give me them. Thank you. You can leave them ones, I'll get them. So if we just break these away from each other, hopefully the roots aren't too entangled. So they've put down some nice roots. That's number one. Number two. And lastly, the larger one. And just get that raked through. It's coming away from the roots nicely. Get that all cleaned off. So I'll get all these cleaned up and all the roots washed away, and then we'll come back and look to get them potted up into some pots and then get them into some packaging ready for their journey to Jarhead Bonsai. So we're back again. The camera overheated a little bit, my phone overheated, everything's overheating in this beautiful day that we're having here today, but we're back to pot up Jared's willows. We're going to send them out in these boxes here, so it'll be a case of trying to make sure that the branches fit inside this box. We'll plant them shallowly, compact all the roots into these little brown plastic pots, and then Jared will be able to work his magic at the other end and pot them on their journey to be in bonsai with Jarhead Bonsai. So first of all, we will get some soil into the bottom of this pot, and we'll take our smaller of the cuttings and get that rested into the bottom of that pot. Some more soil that Harry's playing with nicely, I might add, and we'll just push the soil. Is it big? Push the soil into the roots, and what we'll do is we'll water that in. We're going to wrap it up into some cling film just to hold it all together and keep a bit of moisture in there whilst it goes on its journey across the pond. So we'll just come in with some water and water that in, and just let that soak through. We don't need it to be soaking wet, but just enough just to keep it happy on its journey. We'll get some cling film. You enjoying yourself? And we'll tear off an amount and basically just scoop up the pot and wrap it with the cling film, which will help maintain the moisture for its journey. once it's in the cling film, we can get our cardboard box that it's going into, fold down the edges so we can see what we're working with, slide that into the pot, and then just push the last few bits away. And because it's nice and flexible, we'll just turn the branch down and it will just sit in there nice and happy. We'll do the same again with another pot. Right there, bit of soil into the bottom, and this one probably looks a little bit easier. There's a lot of roots on this, but we'll do the same. We'll just get them down into the pot, put lots of soil around it. Lots of soil into those roots, and then when Jared gets it at the other end, he'll know exactly what to do. We'll just water that through. Let it soak in. You got the soil? Hmm? Bit more cling film. And I'll do the same again. Scoop it up, wrap the cling film around the pot, keeping it nice and sealed. There you go in. Go on then. See you in a bit. We'll take our next box. Now it might be that we have to double end these boxes because the length of the branches, but we'll see where this lands and how we can bend the branches down into position. Now that hasn't gone all the way down to the bottom, so I'll just put my hand into the bottom to push the bottom lip into place, and then we'll drop that in. And that falls lovely, apart from this top bit which probably isn't bendy enough, but we can turn that branch in, we can turn that branch in, we can turn that branch in, and we can turn this branch in. Now the way we'll have to do this is bring the sides together and then cut part of another box and tape that up, and I'll start doing that now. So with the height of these willow being so tall, we're going to have to make the boxes even taller. Now we can do that by cutting up one of the boxes. We cut it into half and we can slide two sides inside this box and then two sides outside the box, giving us a nice finish. And if we take a tape gun, we can tape around our new formed box. And tape it up to make sure it's nicely sealed. So that makes it that bit longer for everything to sit nice and happy inside. Now we need to think about that's going to get chucked around in the side of there, so I've got myself a little bag. It's only a little bag of polystyrene balls, the type of polystyrene balls that you would find inside a bean bag. You can buy these pretty much anywhere, and if we use them to pour into our packaging, this will stop the packaging inside, the branching etc. inside, from being forcefully thrown around, because the polystyrene balls will, you know, it'll compact it and cushion it, but it won't squash, kill or hurt the tree. Once we've got enough in, and made enough mess, we can literally turn down the tops of the package and tape it shut. And once that's done, we can go around the edges again, just to give it that extra seal. Make sure that none of those protective balls come out. There will be a little warning label on here saying many little polystyrene balls contained within the package, because you'll have a great fun time cleaning these little polystyrene balls up. So at least if I put a little label on it for you, it'll remind you that those little polystyrene balls are in here. I know that Nigel had a fun time tidying his up, but the sticker was on the box. It did have the warning to say they were there, and they do go everywhere. I'm surrounded by them now. They're sticking to me with the static, so absolute great fun. So I'll do the same with the next tree and the newer box. We'll just load up this box and we'll get these sent out. If you wait a minute, I'll come with you. I've just got to plant these pots up. Okay, so we've just got the willows to pot back up, and we've got the same pots here cleaned up. So we'll start by putting some soil into the bottom of that one. Grab our nearest willow with lots of roots on there. We'll just bounce them around a little bit, and let's just get this in so that it can carry on growing in some much better soil than that soil that we subjected it to. Well, I subjected it to. We'll just get a bit more in. We'll just press that in. I think that'll do. We'll water it all in. And hopefully where this has started to grow back through off the original trunk down there at the bottom, it will carry on and we'll get some good growth, and then we can start it on its road to become a bonsai tree. So that's tree number 1. We have 3 more. So pot number 2. Get some soil. Just create a bit of a well in there for the next one, and I think we'll go with the nice large branched out one. That's been doing really well, and we'll just get the soil in there. This is going to use up pretty much all the soil I've got, so I'll have to get some more on order before we can do some more work, but at least these trees will be nice and happy in their nice new soil. If we want some nice bonsais, we better look after the trees that we want to make them from. We won't do any pruning. No, we didn't do no root pruning apart from taking the really straggly long ones away, and we won't do any branch pruning. We'll just make sure this soil is nice and wet so it can continue to feed the roots and continue to grow. So that's tree number 2. We will water these again afterwards once it's had a chance to settle. Pot number 3. Some soil, running low. We'll get this little one that's trying to keep growing. We'll just get the roots into the bottom and then hold it and get that soil chucked up all around it. I can see it disappearing into the roots as it falls into position, so we won't be jabbing in at the roots, we'll just add to it and get plenty of water in there. So that's enough of that. Get plenty of water in. Tree number 3, and another one of the larger branching trees. Put some soil in our pot. We'll bring in the tree. I donated my mug here to put it in, and we'll make sure that the roots are out and about. They look really well, nice and healthy considering. And we'll just hold it in suspension again, and we'll just let the soil fall in between the roots. And because it's nice fine soil, it will find its way through and into the roots anyway, so that's pretty all well and good. It's a little bit heavy on the one side there, so it will naturally try and pull itself across and out of the pot, but we'll get this soil in, get it watered, let them sit for a while, and then we'll water them again. So we'll just come in with the water. It's all going in there nicely. I think we'll just take the top off and give it a good water, and just quickly do the same to the others around the trunk, so we can get as much water down and into this root system as possible. So we're nearly depleted from soil, we've got enough to do some little bits, but that's the fourth and final willow planted up. All we need to do is tidy up and get everything sorted back into where it needs to be. So that brings to close the end of another busy day here at Let's Do Bonsai, but before I go, I just want to give a quick little update on some trees that we were trying to save on a previous video. Somebody commented on the Portulacaria Afra rescue video most recently, the most recent video that I did, and part of the comment was basically, how are you able to kill this tree? Because the Portulacaria Afra is probably one of the most hardiest of trees that you can get, and they will put up with some real abuse. And I can prove that because I'll try and get a clip from a previous video and show you what they look like, but they were basically sticks left in a pot. There was no foliage, there was nothing. They were looking very sad for themselves, but I'd like to show you what they look like now at the end of summer. So here they are, the 4 sticks as they were, and they've put on all the growth and done exceptionally well. The big tree has come back lovely and put on some growth up the top there, and the tree in the middle was the second biggest tree, and that's also done some really good growth. This one has put out lots of new growth to the side and the top. It was basically just a stick, and there's a couple of other small cuttings in the greenhouse, the little greenhouse, that have also done really well. So I just wanted to share those with you. The Portulacaria Afra that we had as a forest that was in the tent, wasn't happy with its environment, wasn't happy with the conditions that I had it in. We took it out, we took it apart, put it in the pots, and started the rescue process, and they've done really well. So I think you'll agree, from the sticks that they were to what they are now, they've recovered exceptionally well. They're looking really good, and it just goes to prove, if you want to start in the bonsai world, you'll be looking for jade type trees as a good starter tree. They're very forgiving. If you can't water them as much, you live somewhere where the conditions aren't too good, they're very forgiving, and they allow a lot of mistreatment. So as always, for Let's Do Bonsai, I'm Scott Winard. We'll see you again in the next one.